If you aren't getting referrals, I bet that you are less than happy with your sales volume every month. Hey, it's Jennie Bellinger, and I was recently referred to Jeff Bitten, the founder of Pitch 59, a digital referral card app. I signed up to get my own Pitch 59 card, and in the past 31 days, my card has been shared 20 times. Now, if you have one of those free digital business cards, do they share with you every day how to get your customers to share your card? Do your customers even know how to access your digital business card? If the answer is no, then you really should look into getting your own Pitch 59 card. If you go to badassdirectssalesmastery.com/pitch 59, I'll give you a 20% discount off your Pitch 59 card. Again, that's badassdirectssalesmastery.com/pitch59, and you'll get 20% off of your referral digital card.
Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. And today I have with me Jan Hoath. Now, Jan is someone who I met and we immediately clicked. We had a conversation and I said, oh my gosh, you have to come on the show. We have to discuss this. And so what Jan is doing in the world is just chef's kiss. So let me tell you a little bit about Jan. Jan Hoath is an international speaker, poet, joy-filled mentor to visionary leaders and entrepreneurs. As a leadership coach, mindfulness meditation teacher, and former professional alpine ski instructor, and she's a masterful student of life, Jan offers a leading edge blend to her work, including her signature process, the Happiness Prism, guiding you to claim joy as your superpower to find deep fulfillment, leading with heart without sacrificing your success. Joy and Jan, that's going to be a little confusing there. Jan embodies her joy message, skiing, running, surfing, sailing, learning the banjo, meditating with moose. Oh, we need to talk about that. Speaking on stages, facilitating transformational programs, and at home with her beloved family of her husband, 2 kids, a dog, and a cat. Welcome to the show, Jan.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor and privilege to be here with you and your beautiful audience.
I am so excited about this, but let's start with, how did you get into joy-filled leadership, joy-filled entrepreneurship? Where did all this come from?
Well, like a lot of things in our lives, it came from not having it. It came from wanting to be happy, wanting to be in my joy and not having it. It came from wanting to do my own thing and claim my own path and leading my own charge and not having it.
Oh.
And so kind of diving in the deep end, which I know that you're there for, and everyone here, I just sense it, that so much of what we end up wanting in life really comes from the experience of the contrast of not having it.
Yeah.
And so early on in life, I had a serious doubt and bout of depression. I was at the time a teenager. I was a swimmer and I wanted to be just like my big sister. And I finished hard like they tell you to do. I was finishing my 100 backstroke and I dislocated my shoulder. And then what happened from there is I had to have reconstructive surgery. And then what happened from there was it took me a year to recover. And then what happened from there was I was told I couldn't swim anymore not competitively,
Right.
if I cared about keeping my body whole and thriving as a now 40-year-old.
Hmm.
This is when I was 14. And my whole identity was about around being a swimmer, being like my big sister. And when that was removed from my awareness and without the skills that I now live, breathe, and teach and lead, I fell into deep depression. I
Mm.
did not know who I was, what I wanted at that point, because what I thought I wanted was to be, swimmer, and I loved, the experience of pouring myself into that sport and having that identity when I went to school. And, even as I share this, I encourage everyone to consider those moments in life when an identity that you strongly rely on gets taken away, falls away, dissolves away. And so
Oh,
to
yeah.
encourage everyone to think about and see themselves in these shoes of what happens when what you saw yourself as goes away.
Hmm.
And my parents were awesome. They did the best that they could with what they knew to have for me, and that was therapy and medication. And I hated my happy pills. I did
Mm.
not like having something outside of me to depend on to bring me my happiness.
Yeah.
And just sitting in that not joy period, as I
Yeah.
like to call it, and we all have phases of not joy. I still have phases of not joy as an opportunity to recognize, well, this doesn't feel good.
Right.
What does? And
Yeah.
so I came into this place of really questioning things because also as a ripe teenager, all the emotions, all the things, whoo. And an angel came into my life in the form of my German substitute teacher. She saw me one day at class, and I wasn't even doing that great in the class at the time because I didn't really see the point. And yet she said, "Hey, Jan, come with me. I want to show you something." And she took me to the back teacher's lounge, and there's this poster for an opportunity to win a scholarship to be an exchange student in Germany. And
Oh.
inside of me, a light swish, it was like a light switch, a light flickered inside of me and started to light up. There was a spark of
Ooh.
joy, possibility. Wow, what would it be like to go far away from this identity of being a swimmer and even being my sister's little sister, as much as I love her?
Right.
Like, where do I step into a new identity possibility? Well, this was back in the 90s. It was before we had all the internet and all these things. Like, I literally got to go to a completely different environment, and just the possibility sparked joy. It ignited a possible future for me. Just the
Yeah.
idea of a
Yeah.
pathway to something different and something better and something that felt good inside, that it wasn't a pill that could change. It was
Yeah.
me. And so I poured myself into the application. I poured myself into showing up to the interview. And even then, when I was the unlikely candidate, because I was one of the youngest who applied, I got the scholarship.
Ooh.
And my parents were like, I don't think they're going to like it when they find out you're on antidepressants. And I was like, you're right. I don't think they will. And you know what? I don't think I need to take them anymore. And so I certainly had a doctor's blessing. And I want to acknowledge here there
Yeah.
is a time and a place for medication. And yet I did not require it anymore. And I have not required it since because I utilize these tools that I now live and teach.
Mm.
And so
Good.
I went to Germany and I never turned back. And look, I know that it was quite a blessing for me that I got to completely change my environment. And I recognize some people listening, or a lot of people listening, don't have that opportunity, as contrasting as it was to be able to just go to a completely new family, a new town, a new school, a new country, a new everything.
Yeah.
You can create that from within. And that's what I do time and again for myself and with my clients,
Yeah.
is appreciating that we can take joy, harness it as a path, and then we do what I call is lead with joy. And that's what
Mm.
joy-filled leadership is. It's coming from what's that spark within, and then taking the next step and then the next step from that space that I will highlight here, because this is one of the big messages I really have for everyone today, is the joy-led path is not manufactured.
Mhm.
You can't just create it or map it out and, follow a blueprint for. It's honestly about tuning into a level of consciousness that is joy, that is almost to enlightenment, where you are more intuitive, creative, when you're more attractive to people, places, and opportunities that serve you. And consequently, you are more repellent to people, places, opportunities that don't serve you. Like you
Yes.
organically dissolve away the pathways that are not going to work,
Mm.
that are not aligned with your highest truth. And that's where this notion for me of joy-filled leadership is really about walking in true alignment with your highest self, your highest truth, and where it really becomes like the choiceless choice, where it was like, why? But of course, I'm going to go to Germany. 6 months before that, I would never have guessed I was going to be on a plane going to Germany. And
Yeah.
yet, on that plane, I vividly remember going, I belong here. But
Yeah.
if you had told me this a year ago, I wouldn't have believed you. And I have led my life from that space truly since then.
I
And
love it.
going into finishing out high school and going into college and leaving and graduating from university. But then I went on to follow my joy, which was the path less traveled, blazing my own trail of becoming an alpine ski instructor in Aspen,
Nice.
which
Nice.
then consequently led me to meet my amazing Australian husband because of course I'm ski instructing in America and I break my collarbone, contrast, and I want to ski more. So when I finally get back on the snow, I'm complaining to an Australian colleague and he said, "Why don't you go ski instruct with us down under? Because they in the southern hemisphere have a winter that's in our summer."
Yeah.
And why? But of course, I'm going to go to Australia and ski instruct. Again, would never have put that on my radar.
Uh-huh.
And yet the spark inside said, follow this path. And I met my husband on the first
Hmm.
day of ski school. That was
Oh.
23 years ago. And so I have so many stories for about my own path. And yet I knew that I had something here, that I was on the calling as an entrepreneur, as you very well know, and I know especially your clients here, all the listeners who are building their own business,
Yeah.
that it is a calling and it is not the conventional path and it is not easy. And yet it's so fulfilling.
Hmm.
And that's where I am such a proponent of the joy-led path, joy-led leadership, where you're coming from a space of being filled with joy. And that's where you lead from, that you magnetize yourself, your energy, so that people and opportunities come to you, that you act from that space. Even just being this interview with you today. And even when we met, like, I know when we met, I saw you speaking on another summit and I was like, I'm meant to connect with her. And then it was like that joy led me to book a call with you, didn't know where that would go. And then here we are. And I
Right.
followed what brought me joy from within. It wasn't that I sat down and said, I'm going to book this and this and this. I'm going to, make this number of calls today and make sure I'm on, this many podcasts today. Or, like it truly came from, she's cool. I vibe. Let's roll.
Yes.
And that's where I want to be very encouraging of our audience here, that joy is a muscle to build,
Mm.
and there's a tremendous amount of faith and trust that goes into it. I mean, I remember getting on the plane going to Australia thinking, what am I doing? And yet this feels so right.
Yeah.
And continuing from there. And that's where I've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of women now, women leaders in a variety of businesses
Yeah.
who, whenever we work together, they're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. And then I honored that and I blew myself and everyone around me away. And
Right.
that they are having that impact on their employees and their team members and their families, that the ripple effect is so profound. And yet it's what I call a ricochet, because it's so joyful to watch it happen and the people in your lives are joy-filled. And then you have joy from it. So it just goes back and forth and it builds in intensity. And it has this beautiful, profound experience for all that it starts to be what I call your greatest renewable resource available to you at all times. Because when you know how to access your joy, it is regenerative.
Yes.
Life-giving and serving in leadership for sure, because it dissolves any need to follow a concise expression of what leadership should be. Because
Oh,
I think
yes.
so many people, myself included, thought they should be doing a certain thing. I mean, so many times where I'm like, I should do the conventional path. I turned down a beautiful corporate opportunity to go ski instruct in Aspen.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have, right? And yet, no, like, no.
Right.
And
That wasn't your
so
path. It wasn't your
that
path.
wasn't my path. And that's where I'm super curious, would love to hear from you and what you think, especially your audience is experiencing right now
Yeah.
around letting go of those shoulds and stepping into what's going to bring you more joy. Because for me, joy is an acronym of just own you. And when you can do that, that's when you radiate rainbows. I like to say I'm backed by rainbows. I have this painting I always bring with me, if you will, because that's for me what the happiness prism is about. It's about showing up in your full authentic self, just owning all of you so that you can radiate rainbows out into the world.
It's so freaking awesome because there were a number of people. Okay, so you and I are recording this in mid-July-ish, okay? The people who are listening right now, I felt them have this massive moment when you explained what joy was to you. Just own you. Okay, yes, that explains so much because when we were talking in the pre-interview and we were saying what would make this the best interview for you and what would make this the best interview for you, which by the way, you're the first guest who's ever asked me that back. So thank you very much. Love it. And what I expressed was that I would love to help the listener who right now has been avoiding recruiting because they have a mindset that leadership is heavy and weighty and responsibility filled. And because I, before today, had no way to explain how to not have it feel that way. Because yes, there is a responsibility to it, but my experience of being a leader in a variety of areas of my life. So I'm a leader in B&I. I'm a leader in my coaching business. I'm a leader in the podcasting space. And it is among some of my biggest joy is that leadership position. I love it so much because I get to watch people grow and expand. And that, like, watching that happen is so freaking amazing, right? So I wanted to dig into that part, which is how do we take this mindset of leadership, which most other people see as a weight, and bring it over to this mindset of joy. How do we bridge that? I don't know how to do that. So I beg of you. How do we get somebody from one side to the other?
Well, I feel like just you starting to talk about your experience of leadership being so joyful is already like an opportunity for people to feel your energy around it. That is like the view from the top gets to be beautiful. I mean, here's the thing. So step one, it's a choice. It's a choice in how you view it. Step two, it is a responsibility. And yet let's upgrade the meaning of responsibility to respond ability. It's the ability, it's the opportunity to respond. And that's a gift. From all of your leadership positions, how much privilege have you had to be able to make leading decisions and shift the trajectory of what gets to be possible in your organizations?
Mhm.
That's where my intention here is to provide everyone listening access to hope and inspiration to choose leadership from this space of joy. That's where, for me, I've always been drawn to leadership.
Yeah.
Always, always, always. And yet I also had trouble with feeling it weighty and having an old definition for it. And
Yeah.
so, right here, right now, I invite everyone to come into a new place
Mhm.
of defining what leadership gets to be for them
Mhm.
from the space of joy. Just own your leadership. Just own what you would like your leadership to look like. And recognize that, Jennie, you are such a beautiful example of this. And this is why I was excited to be on your podcast, because you are a joyful leader. You are an avatar for what I would define as a joyful leader. The way you lit up talking about your experience of stepping into those spaces and having those roles and wearing those hats, that's exactly what I'm talking about here. And I would guess you created what leadership meant to you in each of those places. And they're all different, right? In each one of those spaces, as a podcast leader, as a BNI leader, as a business leader, as a coach, all these expressions, all these different hats we wear, right?
Yeah.
It's a different side. And that's where I love Prism. So I want to bring in one of my prisms for you right now. This is a heart shaped, and yet the prism I tend to teach around is a so funny, I can't find it at my desk. I've got so many prisms.
I got one too.
Oh, awesome. 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 Yes. So beautiful. So you have a larger version of these are little charms I hand out wherever I go. And I call these happiness prisms. I share them at a mindful ski and snowboard camp that I lead in Jackson Hole. I facilitate and created the curriculum for. I have the kindful ski method that I created and I lead participants through. And then I also do a mindful equine experience. And this is all in partnership with a beautiful woman named Connie Kemmerer. Well, we share, and I share these prisms as a reminder that we are all these sides. We're not just one-sided beings. We are multifaceted. And when we allow all those different expressions, and especially if we put the notion of leadership in the middle,
Yeah.
and joy-filled leadership, that each one listening comes into what is it for me to own me inside of my leadership in all of these different facets, then who do I get to be? Then that's when I radiate out and am most impactful. Because what happens when you shine a bright light through a prism?
Right. Spreads out.
Yes,
It
spreads
spreads
out
out.
rainbows. And the rainbow is more vivid and it goes further.
Yeah.
And so just kind of a kind of a recap, if we're making these steps, one is it's a choice.
Mhm.
Two, two is
You must be on a Mac. For those of you who are listening right now, you're like, what just happened on the audio? So go watch this on YouTube, because she had two thumbs up in the way her hands were. And so all of a sudden she had fireworks going behind her, right as she's like, so let's talk about joy. And then boom, boom. So
yes, ma'am. I'm so
step
lit up
one.
about this. Step one is choosing it to be joyful. Step two is flipping responsibility into a privilege and an honor. And then step three is taking whatever next inspired step it is, in trusting that it is probably the path less traveled. I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but I have another story that I share when I talk on stages, and that it will be probably the first, well, one of the books I will publish is called The Fruit Loop Moment, when I ate Fruit Loops in the hospital room when we were facing a cancer scare with my then 6-week-old son. And it was the most joyful, out there, outrageous act I could honor. And yet my divine self said, you need to eat the Fruit Loops. You need this joyful moment to nourish your soul, to nourish your joy, and to come into the state of consciousness that you need to make these tough decisions in. That I was the breastfeeding mom in the space with my 6-week-old son, and my husband's on the phone going, what's happening? What's happening? And he's home with our daughter, who's only 2 at the time. And he's also doing his work still. And so what I now have coined as the Fruit Loop moment is about honoring the unconventional spark of joy, spontaneous act that will provide an energy that is uplifting and inspiring, and it provides the perspective shift that we need to see what we're not seeing. And so as I think about your beautiful listeners that are like, dang, it feels really hard and heavy to recruit, or it just feels heavy to put myself out there that much more. And yet this is my invitation to look at like, well, yeah, if we look at it that way, that's going to sound heavy and hard and you're not going to do it. Let's just be honest. And I know what that feels like. I have plenty of moments like that too. And yet that's where what I do and I teach my clients to do is to come into joy first and then take the action. I have a 3-step process that's called the Happiness Prism. And that's where it's actually a triangle. And the first step is play. To play for the sake of nothing else, but then to play, but to get into that joy state. The second step is peace.
Wait, I gotta show this. Like this, what I'm showing right now, for those of you who are audio only at the moment, I pulled out all the coloring books and coloring pencils that I have literally by my left side at all times, because if I'm ever feeling not creative or it's time to get into that play space, I color. I have mandalas. I have coloring books that have bad words in them, or what we call grown-up words here in my house, because grown-ups are allowed to say them. I have a Keanu Reeves coloring book.
Amazing. I love that.
Right? So play. It's as simple as coloring, people. Oh,
it can be dancing. It can be so many things. And yet it does get pretty dynamic. I have an entire private journey called the 7 Rays of Play that we go into the 7 chakras and we tune into the different colors, and we honor a journey of self-actualization into the energy of play. And yet I love that you're already accessing that. And that's right now, everyone listening, you can stop there and already have a life shift.
Oh yeah, huge.
And yet already, because it's just getting you into that creative state of joy consciousness. And see, the thing is though, and that's part of, I think, dissolving old ideas of leadership or outdated paradigms, is that it used to be play when the work is done. And for me, it's play before, during, and after the work.
Yes.
Okay. Because that's the energy where, by the way, you're so much more efficient and effective.
Yeah. I mean, look at the example that people always use about like one of the cool workplaces to work is like Google, right? Because they have air hockey tables and pool tables and dartboards and places to go and play and interact with their coworkers, and that helps with their creativeness because they're not just playing, And so this is something I used to do with my own team is we would go on, it wasn't always, come to my house, we're going to train. It was come to my house and then we'll go see a movie, or we'll have a movie and popcorn and candy. And, I went with a bunch of my team members to go see the movie Bad Moms when it was out, like, do you remember that movie Bad Moms? Oh my gosh, because a bunch of us really felt like, oh God, that's us. Like, we're just not living up to the mom expectations. And it created just amazing friendships and conversations from going and playing. It wasn't even business related.
Yes.
Love that. Love that. Okay. Continue. So step 1, play.
Play. Yes. And then step 2 is peace.
Ooh.
It's, as I define it, it's prayer in motion and yet not religious. It's really about
Yeah.
accessing your inner, knowing your inner truth. And this is where this process of the happiness prism came to me because for years I've known meditation would be serving. And
Yeah.
yet I have a lot of energy, and the last thing I could imagine was sitting down on a meditation cushion. And that's where play has no agenda. It's about accessing that creative space, getting into a different conversation with others, just like you were experiencing with your team.
Yeah.
And it's about getting into the joy. And yet, peace is about getting into that inner knowing. And whether people are prepared to meditate or not, a lot of what I do is I do channeled, guided, playful meditations. In fact, sneak peek, as a gift to everyone listening, I will share the Joy-Filled Leader morning meditation. And it's a standing meditation. It's a moving meditation. It's not about just sitting on the cushion. It's about getting into a state of mind
Yeah.
and being where you have your inner clarity, because you're a coach, I'm a coach, and
Yeah.
I know everybody listening in some capacity is a coach. We can tell people our perspective and wise information all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And the most profound wisdom is when it really comes through us. And so that's where peace is about, just taking that pause. It's the clutch when you shift the gears.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so then
Oh,
that
that's
gets into
huge.
yeah, because how many of us need to take more of a breath? We know this. Mindfulness, thankfully, is a leading conversation in the world now. And
Yeah.
yet it's also, it's very functional and it's very manufactured. I found still that there is this like, and now I do my mindfulness moment. And then now I do this. And now I do my sit-ups. Like it just seems like and I, with
Yeah.
all due respects, I'm a trained certified mindfulness meditation teacher. And yet even then I'm like, mindfulness is just the gateway to something so much more. And that's where the basis of my work is mindful. Absolutely, because we got
Mm.
to get to this present moment.
Yeah.
And then we need to look at what's the most joyful path forward. And that's where peace is the pause in the experience to say, whew, all right, now what?
Yeah.
And that's where we can just take that time, and it doesn't have to be much, or sometimes we need it more.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
the third step is progress. And that's
Mm.
taking the actions that are inspired and align in total purpose. And recognizing that once we take the journey around the happiness prism, starting with play, then peace, then we get on the phone and we make the, whatever committed calls or reach outs or host that, interactive party or go to the networking event or whatever that next step is.
Yeah.
We're in a completely different state of being to show up in that magnetic self, to enjoy whatever that progress step is, and to be the energetic being that will leave a voicemail that people will respond to.
Ooh, a bunch of people just had an aha moment. I felt it right here, right in my solar plexus. A bunch of people went, oh, okay. So, badass crew, favorite this episode, bookmark it, go back and listen again, because I'm telling you, with all the aha moments that y'all have had in this episode, you missed some gems. I'm telling you right now, because she is dropping one little gem right after another. Go back and listen. Like, go back and listen to this a few times, because this is going to be life changing for you as you are able to put all of these things together. Because the universe put this episode in front of you at this time for a reason. So you were meant to hear these things on purpose. So this is so freaking good. I love this so much. We're going to have to talk more. Like, we're going to have to go. Like,
Would love to.
We can't talk forever today. I want to. But you already hinted at, you've got this wonderful gift for the badass crew. talk about your morning meditation.
Well, I'm very honored to provide everyone listening the opportunity to tune into one of my guided channeled meditations, which I will share again that they are playful, they're different. It's not your conventional just breathe in, breathe out and tune into your breath. It's playful. And to be honest, it was channeled for me first. All of my work, my programs, everything I created out of my own need first, filling in the gaps of what I saw was missing in the
Mm,
marketplace. And from other amazing mentors, I've been privileged to work with so many amazing mentors over the year in so many different facets. And yet, the Joy-Filled Leader morning meditation is about 9 minutes, and it's really to just get you going. I have clients that listen to it absolutely every day, and it's one that you can listen to while you're getting ready. You can listen to on your walking the dog or making your coffee, or you can just pause and be present with it. Like I am so encouraging to my clients, like however you get to meditation because
yeah.
it supplies a brain massage and especially from, this energy, like what you were saying, like I'm bringing it here and I'm getting moved as I say this. Like I know I'm here meant to share these words and share this energy with you all. And like you said, at this time for a reason.
Yeah.
And I know there is no time and space. That's all human construct, that this is an eternal message that's coming through.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in those meditations is that it's a loving divine message download to tune in. And so you just have to go to joyfilledleader.com
Mhm.
and you do have to give me your name and email address and yet it sends you the link to the meditation right away.
Yeah.
And then from there, if you want to keep in touch, there's obviously more opportunities beyond that. And
Yeah.
yet, just getting started right there, I would really encourage everyone who resonated with what I was sharing because it would let you take it with you and have a taste of it and try it on in your own space and time.
Yeah.
And that's where I have all my clients start is with just some simple meditations to start to tune in daily. And then, if anyone's interested in going further, obviously the sky's the limit with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's fantastic because what I came away from that, because I also have been shooting myself for a very long time when it comes to meditation. And so that's why I had this like if y'all aren't watching the YouTube version, you would, the audio listeners right now, you missed out on my huge reaction when Jan was talking about um having meditations that are so structured and you have to sit and you have to be still. And I was like, oh my God, hard no. But then talking about a playful meditation, I'm on board. I'm in, like, let's go. Like that to me sounds like the most amazing way to start my day rather than, okay, wake up from being sleeping and still all for how many hours. And now we want you to sit. Oh, no, I need to get moving. I need to move. I need to do something. So the idea of being able to have something that is much more playful and motion centered
Mhm.
and still have it do the brain massage, because my aha moment is, of course, I get massages for my body.
Mhm.
Hadn't
Yeah.
considered meditation is a brain massage. It's just relaxing it. So freaking good. This is so good. Oh my gosh, y'all.
There's so
I'm
much more, but I know we're like running out of
I
time. I'm like, oh
know.
my gosh.
Oh, I know. I'm going to send you the link to book another conversation pretty much like please let's get this because I would love to talk more about mindsets around meditation and doing a joy-filled version of it and how it can impact somebody's life and business. But for now, what I'm going to encourage the person who's listening to this who's also having the same like aha moment of I want a brain massage and I want a meditation that gets me up and gets me moving. It's a standing meditation. I would encourage you to go to joyfilledleader.com. And if you're wondering about how to spell it or you're like what my badass crew knows that the link is in the show notes. If this is somehow magically the very first Badass Direct Sales Mastery podcast you've ever listened to, and you're going show notes, what are show notes? all you have to do is grab your phone, as long as you're not driving, click on today's episode, scroll underneath Jan's picture, and you will see the link to her morning meditation where you can go sign up so that she can send it to you right away. So, Jan, thank you so much for being here. This has been a truly fantastic interview, and I'm so excited for all the people who are going to be moving forward with a different outlook on leadership from here on out. Thank you so much. You've created ripples and ricochets that are going to turn into tsunamis of joy going out into the world. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. It's been such an honor to be here with you, Jennie. And yeah, I really want to be loving and encouraging and reminder that, and you said this to me too, you have a loving responsibility to get out there, to get into your joy and get out there and share your badass, awesome self with the world, because it's not just a product you're selling or a team member you're bringing on. You're providing a better life for everyone, including yourself. So with so much love, get into your joy and get out there. And if I can help in any way, and even if it's just re-listening to this podcast again, awesome. But I am here for all of it too.
Oh, I love this so much. Oh, Jan, we're definitely going to have you back. All right. To all of our badass crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there's another badass episode and quite likely joyful episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.